friends, I'm playing today with some hibiscus. My hibiscus have been really blooming out here and they're just beautiful. I really should have picked one, but they're just so pretty. I don't want to take them off the bush. So I'm going to show you how I draw it, and then I'm just going to show you how I paint it. I am using my Artisto pads. I ran out, so look at this. I've got one of the old ones. The new cover's purple, which I love. This was actually last summer, and that's one of the reasons why I love these, because number one, they're a really good beginner pad. If you want something, if you're outside of the US, I know they're a little pricey. I would use the Meeden pads, which I absolutely love and paint on all the time. They're 100% cotton. But today I am using this Artisto, and then I'm using my paints. This is the floral palette. I'm loving it, as you can imagine, because I paint mostly florals. I just love the colors. And don't these look really tropical? But look at how rich and creamy they are. As usual, Paul Rubens, love them. They're a sister company of My Langs. So they have that same rich quality, but yet still can be very translucent. And then I'm using an 8 long round. That's my brushes that are coming out in September. And I love the Princeton long round. So I made this, designed this kind of after that, and the short handle, which I always love, but they're snappy. Not too snappy, but they're snappy, so they hold that point. And I just think the snappiness is easier to work with as a beginner. Softer brushes are going to hold a lot more water, which can be great. I actually like that too, because I like working wet and wet. But for a beginner, I think the snappier is easier to control. And then making sure you have your wash and rinse water here. You can fast forward through this if you like, everyone, if you already have your supplies. But that's what I'll be using today. Really loving this Craft-A-Mo brush so much for the price point and everything. Plus, just a little fun fact here, Craft-A-Mo. That is, they rebranded with that name years ago, and it's Amo, I'm probably saying that wrong. That literally translates to I love and crafts. Isn't that cool? I love that, Craft-A-Mo. Okay, so anyways, let's draw this first. And you guys, I'm telling you, I am running out of all my supplies, so I literally don't even know what this pencil is. It's a number 2. I'm gonna be using that. And my handy dandy little Mitsubishi eraser here I have, which I love because these last forever. You just keep pulling this little string and it just unwinds the eraser. But literally, I've had this for years and years. It did break. My little grandson broke that. But they last forever. And I'll look up all my supplies for you and put them down below, especially this palette, which, by the way, happy anniversary, Paul Rubens. It's their 14th. And you guys, if you like Paul Rubens, they're having a ton of anniversary prices, I think next week. So check that out on Instagram. I'll look up their Instagram handle and put it below for you too. So I'm going to do 2 of these flowers, and I'll show you how I do them. So the hibiscus, I started with this round circle. I don't like to go too dark. I'm going a little bit darker so you guys can see what I did here. And then I'm going to do hibiscus have 5 petals. So 1, just coming out of the center here. So this is my center. 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's the 5. And actually, you know what? Hold on one second, guys. Let me see if I can find my pen. And that might help you see this a little bit better. This is my Ohuhu pen, which I love their pens. They're, it's a whole fine line drawing set, but they're all fade proof. They're really smooth and they dry quick. So I'm not going to draw the guidelines that I'll be erasing, but I will draw these. So here's my 5 lines. And I noticed when I looked close on my hibiscus, they're kind of I want to use the word grainy. I don't know what other word to use, but they have a lot of lines coming out. So whenever I paint a flower, I always try to think about like, what is it that's kind of noticeable that somebody would look and say, oh, that's a hibiscus. For me, that's what it is. So I've got my 5 lines here, and then I'm going to, and I like my petal edges to be not perfect. And I looked at the hibiscus up close, and what I noticed is the centers of mine come out a little bit more, and most of the petals kind of bend. They're very beautiful and graceful. So that's how I'm going to draw them here. It's got this little stamen that comes out, and then all those little tiny doodads that will paint yellow. So you can see I'm just following around my original guidelines there. And then giving them that uneven edge. So doesn't that remind you of a hibiscus? Now I'll go back in, because these Ohuhu markers dry so quick, and I can go back in and just kind of erase my pencil lines here. Now, like I said, I drew these a little bit darker because I wanted you guys to see. Normally I wouldn't quite draw that dark because they might show up through my watercolors. As you know, watercolors is really transparent. And then I'm just going to use this old ancient brush I have. I don't throw away my old brushes because I use them for things like this. If I was to wipe it with my hand, I might have lotion or something on my hand. So my guidelines are kind of showing up, but when you do yours, just draw a little bit lighter. I really need to get more of those fabulous pencils I love that have the little eraser at the end. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to first draw my circle, and then this is that center. And as you know, a hibiscus, it really feels like it goes deep inside. And then my guidelines, 4, 5. I'll draw the little stamen here with all those little yellow things. This is such a pretty flower. And you know, this house that I'm in right now, I have never seen hibiscus so huge, maybe in Hawaii. They are just gorgeous. They're like bigger than my hand. They're so beautiful. Okay, and then I'm going to go around. So I've got those 5 guidelines. Now I'm going to go around and draw the petals. So another thing about hibiscus is mine, all of the flowers are very curvy. So I tried to incorporate that in here so that you could see. And actually I should be using my pen here. I'm going to go back in and just erase the circle I originally put in there. Oops, you know what? Let's do the pen first because I'm going to erase my guidelines there. So let me get my pen here, Ohuhu marker. And we've got that center that all of my lines are coming out from. And these guidelines really help me to make sure my petals are facing in the right direction. So I have them all at the base coming out of the center. That just helps me. Now I'll go in, draw all my petals, remembering to give them a real pretty organic edge on them. There we go. And then mine have a lot of lines in them. And we'll draw this little center Just a bunch of those yellow pieces coming out. Okay, so see how easy that made it using those guidelines? Now I'm going to go back in and erase some of the circle. Again, mine is going to show up because I did draw a little bit harder and darker than I might normally. But when you do yours, just go a little bit lighter. I can definitely see this one, and it'll probably show through a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so let's get rid of all that mess and move my brushes over. I accidentally used my stamper for those little circles, if you've been seeing me use those. I accidentally stamped my desk. Okay, so I think the brush I'll use today, if I was using bigger paper, I'd use this fun Big Ol' Bad Boy 16, but since I'm on the Artisto pad, I'm just going to use my smaller brush because that would be harder to get small. And then I think what else I'll do is let's just draw some leaves here. So we'll draw one coming out here. And the leaves on my plant are quite large. They are bigger than life, I think. So we'll just do maybe another one coming out here. Maybe one here. Something like that. Okay. Let's go in, and I think the color I will use, let me find a scrap paper. 1 second. That I can test some of the colors on. 1 second. Okay, here we go. We'll use this here. I want to use, as you know, I love my pinks, and this palette actually has a really pretty red, so maybe we'll use that. Yeah, that's pretty. We'll use that. And it looks grainy on here, by the way, because this paper is kind of a cheaper paper. I just use it to practice on. Let's see what this color is. I think this is a pinky color. Ooh, that's pretty, but I don't know if I've ever seen a hibiscus that color. Not that that matters to me, for sure. Let's see what this color is. Ooh, now that's pretty. I think I'll use that one. And I'll have to find my little color template to tell you what that color is. Ooh, I really like that one. Okay. We could almost mix the pink and the red. So what I'm going to do first is start in the middle because that's darkest. Or you know what? How about we do this? We want to work dark or light to dark. So I will go in and just create a very light wash of that color I just showed you. So there it is. I'm going to add some water because we always want to start lighter. And just start using a little bit of the point in the side of my brush. So I'm anchoring my hand here and I hold by where the crimping is. Oh yeah, look at that color. Isn't that pretty? And around the edges, and I'll wash rinse my brush, tap it off. And just soften those lines. Try and leave some white space in there. That's a pretty color. Ooh, I need to look that up and tell you what color that is. And then I'm just going to tap into the middle and maybe around the edges. Ah, look how beautiful. That's exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so more water. Go in, tap, tap, tap. And let's go into the next one here. Try and be a little aware of maybe leaving some white in there. And then pick up a little bit more. So I might even pick up a little bit more on my brush and just tap into the center because I want to give the illusion that, you know, I really want the center to kind of pull you in there. And now before this completely dries, I think I'll go in and just lay down some darker colors. Yeah, I like this a lot. Oh, I'm so happy that I can do this beautiful flower some justice here. So I'm just tapping into the edges with like a damp on damp. So pretty. And then I'm going to wash and rinse my brush and tap it off because I want to pull that color out a bit like that. And I intentionally am leaving quite a bit of white, but look at how that darkness just pulls you in. And then maybe go in, pick up a tiny bit more. In this color, just like, I hear people use the word delicious, like this is delicious. There we go. So pretty. And you know what I see? I forgot the other side of that petal. So I'll just go in, and then I go in with a damp brush and just soften that. Okay, and we're just going to go all the way around this flower with that. Leaving some white space. So I use the tip of my brush to just leave some white in there. Tap in a little bit here, maybe around the edges. So pretty, you guys. Oh my gosh, I hope you guys try this. Leaving that white space in there. And don't you love the organic lines? I think that's so pretty. Maybe tap in a little bit with that darker color and even pull out a few little lines here. Tap around the edge. Oh, I love it. I'm gonna wash in pretty much a thirsty brush and just clean up some of those lines. There we go. And then I'm gonna leave that. Look at that beautiful color, you guys. So I know you guys can do this, especially if you use those guidelines. Those are a huge help, you guys. I don't think I could draw this with just completely freehand. Go back into the center there. Be a little bit of dark, and don't forget to leave that white space. There we go. Oh my gosh, I love this. I may have to make a card out of this because it's just too pretty. It's like she wants to be on a card, right? There we go. And then let's go into the leaf in the back here. Now the leaves on mine were quite large, and I'm going to use some of that tree green in here, which reminds me exactly of the tree green in the My Lang palette. Isn't that funny? There we go. Just wash, rinse my brush. And I don't care if it kind of, you know, mixes in with our flower here. That doesn't bother me at all. Then maybe use the Hooker's Green, which I've never used Hooker's Green, but ever since I've been playing with this palette, this floral palette, I've been using Hooker's Green. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how of all these years I have not used that. Like, how crazy is that? I love the Hooker's Green. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that. Maybe just add a tiny bit, see what I do. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna leave it, and then I go right back in. There we go. Okay, let's just let that kind of soak in there. And I'm dying to do these little yellow thingies. So just tap, 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 just like that. And I'll let that dry, and then I'll come back in and do that stamen. All right, let's do our other flower here. So much fun, right, you guys? What a beautiful flower to paint. I wish I was in Hawaii painting this. Wouldn't that be fun? Are any of you, I don't think I've ever had anybody from Hawaii on here. How funny. Maybe they don't like watercolors in Hawaii. I'm just kidding. I'm sure they do. I'm still a small artist. I don't reach everybody. And then let's keep going. I'm going to add in some more water. And then I'll tap into that with some dark. I love location painting, so when you guys tell me, especially like from the UK and places, I'm like, oh my gosh, that must be so beautiful there. My daughter just got back from the UK, and she said she fell in love with it. Around the edges. Oh, so pretty. And here's where, you know, you just trust the watercolors. Let the watercolors move and blend where they want to. And they always create something beautiful. There we go. Just adding in a little bit darker because I want to kind of pull the eye in. We could actually even, let's see what would happen if we added just the tiniest bit of greenish to that center to really feel like there's some depth in there. Okay. And I'm going to move on to my next one, some water, tapping off. And making sure too, these are the little things like your brush strokes are following the petal shapes, because if I just painted straight, it wouldn't look right because the petal curves. Go in, just adding in, just tapping in. Barely any paint, guys, and my brush is not real wet because if I have too much water, it's going to spread everywhere. So I'm just barely picking up any paint, and my brush is pretty dry. Not dry, but it's not full of water. And look how lovely. Oh, I'm liking this. I'm so glad I decided to paint this today. This is what I do, and it's why it's so important, I think. Like, go out, go for a walk, see what inspires you. Maybe it's food. Maybe it's, you know, you do portraits, which most likely you probably wouldn't be watching my paintings if you were a portrait person. But, you know, go outside and get inspired. That's what I do. And then I come back in. It's like, oh my gosh, I got to go grab my brushes and my paints. By the way, I do have a watercolor beginner course, you guys, if you're interested. Took me forever to create it because, as you know, I'm a little tech challenged, but I think it's really fun. I was quite happy with it. And I did it because it's a little bit more comprehensive and has some worksheets and such. So remembering to leave a lot of that white space in there is really important. Let's just tap in with the darker value of that. There we go. And then I'm going to tap in around the edges. Like, there is hardly anything on my brush, but look at how much it moves. Because that's what watercolors does. It moves a lot. It's very movable unless you're using it like an acrylic. Now this is dry, so I can go in there and start adding in some lines because it's not going to move because it's no longer wet. And I think these little lines are really, for me, kind of tell me, oh, that's a hibiscus. I recognize those lines. Going around the edge here. There we go. And then let's paint our stamen in the middle here. There we go. And that stamen is actually kind of brownish, so maybe I'll add in just a tiny bit of dark brown or dark green. Yeah, like that. And that really kind of popped it out, didn't it? And in the center. And then while we're waiting for this one to dry, I'm just going to create another leaf here using that light green. Even the leaves on this flower are so pretty. And they're quite large. Add in some of our hooker's green, my new favorite green. It's kind of a cross between a olive green and a sap green. I'm really liking it. And I'm always trying to push myself a little bit, you know, to learn and use something different. Okay, let's do this leaf right next to it. Pick up some more of that light green. And I'm not going to fret too much if they kind of run into each other. That's perfectly fine. Notice I'm leaving some white space there too. Do another one over here. This is where I really appreciate this little brush because I can get some thicker, wider spots, but I also can get those tiny points. Okay, we're about done here. Let's do some of that yellow. There we go. Pick up a little bit more of that yellow. And just tap in, just dab, dab, dab. There we go. And I think we're about done. I mean, how pretty is that? You could go in with other colors and such. One second. I'm just adjusting my fan here. Whoopsie. It's getting hot. But isn't that lovely? What a simple little card. And if you're good at calligraphy, which I'm not, you could go in and just write something wonderful. I think this would be a great, I've had lots of friends that do luau's. I think this would be a really fun luau card. So there you go. If you want to go in and maybe add some veins in your leaves, you could definitely do that. I don't usually do details. Oh, we forgot the stamen. Not we, I forgot the little stamen there. So let's do that. I think this is a little bit wet. And then I'll add some brown into that. Oop, get that red paint off. Get me some brown here. Just tap in while that's dark. Maybe a tiny bit more in the center, just to really draw your eye in there. And there you go. There's a simple little hibiscus. All right, everybody, thanks for being here with me. I hope you give this a try. I think this is such a fun summer flower, and you could definitely go in and even add some more darks around the edges, but I think this is just beautiful. All right, I will talk to you all soon, and happy painting.